Imagining American TV without MASH seems almost impossible. The show simply doesn't feel right without it. That's because MASH wasn't your typical sitcom. When it aired in 1972, during the final days of the Vietnam War, it changed everything in a good way. Although it was set during the Korean War, it wasn't just about guns and wounds. The show managed to switch between making you laugh and making you cry. It was a war comedy that made you feel things few shows could pull off. Fans loved it. The characters were funny, oddly lovable, and sometimes surprisingly easy to relate to. But behind the scenes, things weren't always smooth. As the show explored real issues more deeply and gave the characters heavier storylines, tensions grew. Some stars eventually left. Why did they go? Was it burnout? The real reasons are more interesting than you might think. But before we get into the backstage stories, let's start at the beginning. Before the laugh tracks and iconic theme song, MASH had humble roots. It all started with a book. In 1968, a Korean War surgeon named H. Richard Hornberger, who wrote under the name Richard Hooker, created MASH. The novel was about 3 Army doctors and based on Hornberger's real-life experience in a mobile Army surgical hospital. The story had dark humor and a lot of heart. Readers loved it. Hollywood took notice too. In 1970, director Robert Ullman turned it into a movie. It wasn't just any film. It was a sharp, funny, sometimes dark comedy that made you laugh to stop crying. Donald Sutherland played Hawkeye, and Elliot Gould was Trapper John. The movie captured the weird mix of chaos and comedy that marked wartime life perfectly. Vietnam still stayed on everyone's mind, and it struck a chord. The show earned awards, made a lot of money, and showed people were ready for something different. Then came the big hit, MASH, the TV series. In 1972, CBS took a chance and started it, thanks to Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds. Suddenly, TV was never the same. It began as a comedy about doctors in a war zone, but became one of the most meaningful and funny shows ever made. It started in a tent with quick-witted surgeons and tons of chaos. Do some shows get better as they go? MASH was one of those. While it kept the war setting and zany humor, it started exploring what made the characters tick. Instead of just quick jokes, the storylines made viewers feel real emotions. It wasn't just doctors joking around in a tent. It became an emotional ride. Alan Alda, playing Hawkeye Pierce, was the star and quickly became the heart of the show. But let's go back a bit. The first season wasn't a hit. The ratings were so low it seemed no one watched TV. CBS almost pulled it. Instead, they moved it to Saturday nights. That risk paid off. The ratings soared. People started talking about MASH all the time. Alda didn't just act. He also wrote, directed, and helped guide the show. He wanted it to feel real. As the series grew, its tone changed. Some characters became deeper, and others faded into the background. Not everyone was happy. Some actors felt like they were just extras in what used to be their show. Some felt their roles were shrinking, while others faced personal challenges. A few simply wanted to try something new. After 11 seasons, change was bound to happen. But through it all, MASH stayed true to its core message, showing the cost of war. Not with long speeches, but with humor, emotion, and characters doing their best to hold on. Now, let's look at one of the most important moments in TV history, when Emlam Stevenson was written out. Fans knew him as Colonel Henry Blake, the slightly clueless but lovable leader. His character wasn't just part of the show. He was the calm amid chaos. Then came the season 3 finale, called Abyssinia Henry. It sounds strange, but it became famous for one line, a line that shocked everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. No survivors, no warning, no dramatic buildup, just sudden death. The scene was raw and shocking, unlike anything sitcoms had ever done before. So, what made it so shocking? Lam Stevenson had been with the show from the start. He played the often flustered but good-hearted Colonel Blake. His warmth brought life to the chaos of war. It was like trying to host a dinner while your kitchen was on fire. Fans loved him. Critics did too. He even won a Golden Globe. But behind the scenes, Lam Stevenson didn't feel the same love. The spotlight was shifting to Alan Alda. Lam felt like he was becoming a sidekick in his own show. In a 1975 People magazine interview, he said, "I want to be #1. I want to be the guy carrying the show." It sounded bold, but it wasn't just about ego, it was about ambition. He saw what MASH could be, how powerful TV could be. He didn't want to stay stuck playing the goofy commander forever. He had big dreams, similar to mine with my show. He wanted to lead, not just stay in the background cracking jokes and looking confused. So he told the producers he was leaving. Instead of giving him a simple goodbye or a promotion, the showrunners decided to make it memorable. Because MSH was not an ordinary sitcom. It was about war, and in war, goodbyes aren't always possible. That's how Abyssinia Henry came to be. In the episode, Blake finally gets orders to go home. He says goodbye, climbs into the helicopter, and the camp bids farewell. It seems like a sweet send-off. Then, out of nowhere, that final line hits hard. No one saw it coming. It felt real and gut-wrenching. It changed TV forever. No more sugarcoating. This show was raw. Anything could happen now. Let's talk about Lam Stevenson, the man who played Henry Blake. You might wonder, why did he leave in the first place? Lam had big dreams. He didn't want to be just the funny, lovable side character. He wanted to lead, to be the star. So he made the tough choice to leave MASH at its peak. He hoped to create something of his own. It seemed like a good move at first. NBC offered him a fresh deal. He launched the Lam Stevenson Show, with his name right in the title. But it flopped hard, only lasted one season, and then was gone. Not ready to give up, he tried again with Hello, Larry. But that effort didn't fare any better. People still joke about it today. It was a huge failure, legendary in its badness. Years later, Lam admitted he regretted leaving MASH. It wasn't just about failed shows. He realized how special MASH was. The cast, the writing, the chemistry, that's rare. It's like lightning in a bottle. You don't find it twice. His castmates, Alan Alda and Loretta Swit, said they were sad but respected his decision. Others wondered if he left too soon. Even though Lam continued acting and appeared on other shows, he never found that same magic again. When he died in 1996, fans and friends showed their love openly. Alda called him a great actor and a kind man. Gary Berghoff remembered him as a cheerful spirit who brought happiness to everyone. But just when you think you've seen the biggest shock, Wayne Rogers leaves. His exit was not only unexpected, but also strangely quiet. It had a mysterious feel and hidden tension behind the scenes. At least MASH gave its stars a proper goodbye, with tears, hugs, and a final scene that touched everyone watching. Wayne, however, just vanished. There was no warning and no emotional farewell. One episode, he's joking with Hawkeye, and the next, he's gone. No explanation, no farewell party. So, what really happened? Why would someone leave a hit show without saying goodbye? Let's go back for a moment. Wayne Rogers played Trapper John, a fun, quick-talking partner to Alan Alda's Hawkeye. They were the heart of the early seasons. These two could switch from saving lives to teasing each other in seconds. Their chemistry was electric. Fans loved watching them. It felt similar to the action in Lethal Weapon, but in a mobile army hospital. But behind the laughs, things weren't perfect. When Wayne joined the show, he expected it to be about everyone getting equal attention. He thought it would be an ensemble. That was the deal. But as the series went on, it centered more around Hawkeye. Alan Alda's character was no longer just a sidekick. He became the main focus. Alda was writing, directing, and shaping the show's tone. While Wayne respected him and they reportedly got along off-screen, Wayne watched his role shrink. It was like his character faded into the background. Imagine being in a group project, but only one person gets all the praise. Wayne said it wasn't about jealousy or ego. It was about feeling like he didn't belong. Trapper John went from a full character to someone who just nodded at everything Alan said. Rather than stick around to play second fiddle, Wayne took a bold step. He decided to leave the show. His departure caused chaos behind the scenes, forcing the writers to come up with a quick explanation for the Season 4 premiere. They had Trapper discharged while Hawkeye was on leave. That was all they did to end a beloved character. No farewell scene, no goodbye hug. The character simply vanished. To fill the hole, producers brought in Mike Farrell as B.J. Honeycutt. He represented a new type of character, calmer, more thoughtful, less chaotic. With this change, the show's tone shifted. The wild humor slowed down, giving way to deeper emotional stories. Some fans missed the old chaos, others welcomed the show's maturing. Which side do you lean towards? Did you prefer the days of wild antics or the calmer, more reflective moments? Moving forward, Wayne Rogers didn't just disappear. He did a few more acting roles before making a surprising change. He left Hollywood to become a successful financial investor and commentator. He never received a grand farewell, but left on his own terms. No drama, no regrets. He quietly exited a show he felt no longer suited him. When two key characters left, what came next? The answer lies in what followed. It involves a man named Larry Linville, a character fans loved to hate. His presence nearly changed the show's rhythm. Larry Linville played Major Frank Burns, one of TV's most famously cranky characters. If you watched MASH back then, you knew Frank Burns. He was that officer everyone loved to dislike. Always uptight, rigid, and often clueless, he could wipe out the fun fast. Larry Linville didn't just act as Frank, he became Frank. Over time, the role affected him. Larry's departure was neither as dramatic nor as quiet as some others. It was somewhere in between. Behind the scenes, things were complicated, but on screen it looked pretty simple. After 5 seasons, Larry decided to leave. Why? Because Frank Burns was stuck in a rut. His character had become a joke, caught up in bad behavior and tired punchlines. Larry wanted more, so he chose to walk away. Like Milan and Wayne before him, his exit left a big gap in the MASH family. To make things harder, Harry Morgan stepped in as Colonel Sherman Potter. Suddenly, everything changed again. Potter was warm, wise, and had a calming presence. He brought a new type of leadership to the camp. The atmosphere felt different, more real, more like a family, and the show got better, deeper, more layered. So here's the question. Is change always a bad thing? Can removing characters, even ones we love or dislike, actually give the show new energy? For MASH, those moments of loss and new arrivals became part of what made it special. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes it was a mess, but it felt real. Have you ever wondered what happens when someone from acting quietly leaves to chase a new dream? Take Wayne, for example. He studied history at Princeton before switching to finance and making a name on Wall Street. In the 90s, he became a familiar face on Fox News, breaking down economics and policy. He didn't make his money from acting, but from smart investments. Still, Hollywood never let go of him. Wayne appeared on TV some, doing small movies and recurring roles. He even joked about his time on MASH in interviews. Though he left the show suddenly, there was no bad feeling. Alan Alda once said, "Wayne is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. I missed him when he left." Their friendship stayed strong over the years. When Wayne died in 2015 at age 82, Alda shared a heartfelt message on Twitter. He called Wayne smart, funny, curious, and dedicated. They promised to tease each other forever. Sadly, that never happened. Wayne left MASH quietly, with no big goodbye. Fans still remember Trapper's friendly grin and easygoing style fondly. But some actors left because the show was too much emotionally. Let's talk about Gary Berghoff, Radar O'Reilly himself. He was the heart of MASH, but his departure wasn't celebrated or announced loudly. It was quiet and painful. It had a much deeper impact than most people knew. To viewers, Radar was that wide-eyed, almost innocent character Clark who appeared to possess knowledge before anyone else. He had the ability to hear helicopters long before they showed up. He bore the weight of the war, with a teddy bear in one arm and an angelic kind of vulnerability, while Hawkeye and Trapper bent the rules and Colonel Blake fumbled through. Leadership, Radar served as the glue that held. The unit together, representing the emotional core of the 4077. However, beneath that anxious smile and gentle voice, Gary was silently struggling. He was the only actor to portray Radar in both the original 1970 film and the television series, but on TV, he redefined Radar into something truly memorable. A representation of innocence lost amidst war. The movie Radar had a hint of mischief, even a bit rough around the edges. Yet Gary's Radar was a tender spirit, rendering the character iconic and, as many would say, irreplaceable. After MASH, Gary took a significant break from acting. He attempted a short-lived spin-off entitled WALT, where Radar becomes a rookie police officer, but it failed to gain traction. Ultimately, he departed from Hollywood for good and discovered new interests, such as painting, wildlife conservation, and, believe it or not, inventing. He holds several patents, including one for a fishing tackle system. Gary's passion for nature became his refuge, aiding him in recovering from the pressures and emotional burdens of fame. He once articulated it succinctly. I left for two reasons, my family and burnout. I wanted to pick up the pieces of my life. And honestly, can you fault him? Nowadays, Gary leads a low-profile life. He is not out there, pursuing headlines or engaging in numerous interviews. However, every now and then, if you happen to see him at a fan convention or come across one of his rare interviews, it serves as a reminder of that gentle man with the large ears, who somehow always heard the helicopters first. It's akin to encountering an old friend you hadn't seen in years, instantly evoking that feeling of warmth and nostalgia. Before we conclude, we must not overlook the women of MASH. In a series filled with men utilizing humor as a coping mechanism, the women faced a more difficult task of being acknowledged. No one confronted that challenge more than Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan, portrayed by Loretta Swit. Initially, Margaret was merely the punchline, a strict, by-the-book officer with a nickname that encapsulated her essence. However, Loretta was determined to prevent her from remaining a one-dimensional character season after season. She infused Margaret with intelligence, strength, and vulnerability. By the conclusion, Margaret had evolved from being merely respected to becoming a fully developed, subtly revolutionary character who questioned the brutality of the war while excelling in her role. Notably, while numerous male actors came and went, Loretta remained for all 11 seasons, being one of only 4 to feature in both the pilot and the finale. In a series that stripped everyone down to their core selves, Margaret stood out prominently. Thanks to Loretta's commitment, she ensured that the women were not merely background noise. They were vital voices in the narrative. So, what about the MASH actors or characters we have not discussed? Who do you believe made a significant impact?